League Division Series, the San Francisco Giants and the Chicago Cubs. And welcome inside the broadcast booth, Matt Vasgersian. The Chicago Cubs have been the class of Major League Baseball all season long. An exciting young core of players, a terrific starting staff, led them to clinching the NL Central as early as mid-September. 103 wins, the top total in baseball. The Cubs begin their postseason journey tonight toward what would be their first World Series title in over 100 years. The Giants got into the All-Star break with the best record in the game, but needed a late September push to get here. They won their final 4 games of the regular season, beat the Mets in the wild card game in New York on Wednesday, and stand 11 victories away from an improbable 4th World Series win in the last 6 years. I welcome Hall of Famer John Smoltz to the broadcast. John, we are set, all the elements in place for what should be a terrific best-of-5 series.
Well, I personally can't wait. I've been looking forward to this series. You've got the Cubs, 103 wins. They have the most weapons that give them the opportunity to win a game, right? And then you got the Giants. They have the weapon of knowing how to beat somebody at this time of the year. The subplot might be the Giants' contact offense against the Cubs' strikeout pitchers. It's going to be a fantastic, heavily weighted starting rotation on both sides.
Let's talk about one of the Giants' weapons. And the last time we saw Johnny Cueto in the postseason, he was wrapping up a complete game in Game 2 of last year's World Series in another uniform. He gets the ball for Bruce Bochy tonight.
Well, and if you haven't seen him much, he likes to have fun on the mound. And what I mean by that, he can throw about 4 different deliveries at you. Johnny Cueto messes with the timing of the opposing hitters with a traditional windup, and then he gives you a little bit of a Louis Tiant, all right, and then he might quick pitch you, and then he's got one last one, that's the rocking chair. Johnny Cueto reads the hitter's swings and tries to do whatever he can to disrupt the timing. He is very suited for the Giants. You see the last 5 starts, 4-0, and for Johnny Cueto, he wants to get his team off to a good start.
Cueto's had some postseason success, that's to be sure, but not in comparison to the Cubs starter. In fact, very few can boast the kind of postseason success that John Lester has had.
Well, John Lester is also looking at possibly winning a Cy Young, but what he's been is unbeatable in the second half. That only loss came to the Cincinnati Reds in what was a tune-up for this start. His determination, his concentration, experience, all going to bode well for the Cubs. The only thing, he doesn't hold runners very well. So if he can get the speed off the bases, and maybe the Cubs get off to a good start. We already seen the Texas Rangers, best record in the American League. They're down 0-2.
Yeah, there is some pressure on the Cubs. You alluded to that a moment ago as we say hello to the 3rd member of our broadcast crew, Ken Rosenthal, with a little bit more on how the players in Chicago are handling that pressure. Kenny.
Well, Matt, from day 1 of spring training, Joe Maddon has talked about embracing the target. He wanted his players to be empowered by the expectations, not overwhelmed by them. And the players certainly do not act as if they are carrying the weight of 1908. Jake Arrieta told me he is amused by questions about whether the team is anxious or nervous. He'll tell people, hey, I played golf this morning, I'm fine. If the Cubs lose, it will be due to the randomness of the postseason, the quality of the opponent. They're not going to crumble.
All right, Kenny, nobody in Chicago expects this thing to crumble in either direction. The Giants very comfortable with what they are at the start of play tonight as the ceremonial first pitch was thrown out moments ago by Hall of Famer and Chicago Cub legend Billy Williams. Among the many all set to put all the curses and disappointments of the last 107 years to bed. Let's start you by posting the Giants starting lineup today. Here's how they align against John Lester. Gorkys Hernandez, a late call-up who made an impact down the stretch. A lead off in center field. Brandon Belt moved into the 2 spot at the end of the season. Had a lot of success there. He bats second tonight. Buster Posey, Hunter Pence, and Angel Pagan, the former Cub, 3 through 5. Brandon Crawford, Kelby Tomlinson, Connor Gillespie, the wild card hero, and Johnny Cueto rounded out for San Francisco.
Well, for John Lester, what you do when you look at this lineup card, you say, okay, I got to highlight a couple people. Those 2 people right there highlighted, don't let them get on base because they are the potential stolen base threats for the San Francisco Giants. Of course, you don't want Posey or Pence to beat you, but the speed in this lineup, which isn't a lot, keep them off the bases. John Lester does that. He'll be in a good position to pitch a strong game for his Cubs.
Among the benchmarks of the 2016 Cubs, they are an outstanding defensive team, and it's the John Lester defense today. That's what Joe Maddon calls it when he has Javi Baez in the infield. Chris Bryant plays third. Addison Russell at shortstop. Anthony Rizzo is per usual at first. We put their ages on the screen because when this group started the postseason last year, they were one of the youngest postseason infields in Major League history. John, let's take a look at the keys to the game.
Well, it's the pressure on the bases for the Giants. They tried to do it to Syndergaard. Any chance you can, steal some bases. And for the Cubs, it's game 163. Don't change anything. You're the best team in the baseball season for a reason, and that's Joe Maddon's plan. It's just game 163, guys.
Keys to the game brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company. We are all set for baseball. Game 1 of this division series, and John Lester ready to go to work.
Well, you see the numbers on the year. It's been a fantastic season, much more consistent with his mechanics. And the key for tonight in John Lester is where does he get that inch off the plate? He loves to throw to the glove side, which is inside to a right-hander, but he needs to get the outside corner to be effective. That is the one thing he has dominated hitters this year, is fastballs away and in, complementing it with a changeup, cutter, and occasional curveball.
Gorky Hernandez digging in for San Francisco, and this National League Division Series game 1 is underway. Hernandez, Belt, and Posey for the Giants. There were some roster choices, of course, for both Bruce Bochy and Joe Maddon. And if you had suggested to the Giants that they'd be opening this division series with a guy that spent most of his season in AAA, you might have been met with some skepticism. But Bruce Bochy wants a guy that's capable of getting on base and maybe starting a running game against John Lester to set the tone tonight. Trying to bunt his way aboard. Rizzo with a shovel to first base, and they can't get it done. Hernandez is aboard to start the ball game, but looks like he's dinged up as he had a collision with Javi Baez at the bag.
Yeah, that was a scary looking play. Baez, one of the most athletic players on the team, comes all the way from second base. This is what you got to do against John Lester. You've got to make him field the ball, possibly throw. At this point, it's an impossible play. You see Baez trying to slide in, catches the ankle of Gorky Hernandez. Almost an ugly play for both players. Luckily, hopefully, nobody really hurt. But I'm surprised over the course of the season why more teams didn't try to do that. You can tell in the postseason, everybody's more amped up. The crowd's more into it. Everything is a rally. When a guy gets on first base, it's a rally, and they have the right guy on the base. Do the Giants if they're going to try to create speed and take bases.
Hernandez did not have a stolen base at the major league level this year, but he did steal 20 at AAA this season. And here now is Brandon Belt with the leadoff hitter aboard. Belt, as we mentioned, moved into the 2 spot at the very end of the season, and it paid some dividends. The Giants are 6-1 with Belt batting second. And Belt himself seemed to take off in that spot as well. A .375 batting average for him in the final week of the season as the number 2 hitter. There goes Hernandez. Throw to second by Ross is in plenty of time to get him.
David Ross in his final year. This is a package deal. Lester and Ross didn't get the greatest jump, but what a great throw and a great start for the Cubs. You've got to be, as a base runner, you've got to be determined to take the biggest lead and go immediately. And that's the hardest thing for players to do, is think he's not going to throw to first.
Belt with a swing and a miss to put him behind 1 and 2.
So here's the throw by Ross. He gets rid of it, and you can tell how fired up he's going to be. It's a big moment. Say, take that, boys. Try stealing on my guy.
A ball and 2 strikes to Belt with 1 out and the base is empty. For coverage of this game in Spanish, please tune into Fox Deportes.
But if you're the Giants, you have to do that. That is the right play. Talking to Bruce Bochy is trying to convince his players to get a big enough lead and go. Don't worry about being picked off. He rarely throws the ball over to first base.
And Belt commits. 2 gone to start the top of the first.
Well, this is the fastball away. He'll cut his fastball. You see that cutting action right there. He'll throw a cutter away and cutters in to right-handers, and he'll use that occasional breaking ball if he feels like he needs to get them off of the hard stuff. But Jon Lester, power pitcher, as are most of the Cubs this year. 3rd most strikeouts for the Cubs pitchers.
Here's Buster Posey now. The 4-time All-Star ended the season in good shape, hitting safely in 7 of his final 10 ball games, though the power mysteriously vanished after the All-Star break, something you can say for most of the San Francisco lineup. And Posey out in front, a swing and a miss, 1-1.
.46 postseason hits for Buster Posey, and plenty of career left in this young man.
21 career postseason runs batted in. His next will pass Barry Bonds for the most in franchise history. Boy, that caught stealing was such an early momentum changer in the stands. You know, Hernandez reaches on the infield single. And if he's able to beat that throw, this place isn't nearly as loud at this moment. Lester's 1-2 to Posey. You know, the thing that Jon Lester and David Ross feel strongly about regarding the stolen base success, and again, 72 opposition bags in 2 years against Jon Lester, an enormous total. They feel much like your ex-mate Greg Maddux did. If they can't get on, they can't steal, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Exactly.
Posey lifts a fly ball the other way. Jason Hayward in the corner to wrap up an eventless top of the first. Nothing comes of that leadoff infield single. So the Cubs have no score at Wrigley. Joe Maddon's Cubs starting lineup: Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo off the top. Ben Zobrist, Addison Russell, and Jason Hayward 4 through 6. Javi Baez gets a start at second base. Ross and Lester round things out for the Cubs. And on the mound for the Giants, the two-time All-Star, 30-year-old veteran Johnny Cueto, an 18-game winner during the regular season, capped off a fantastic year with a winner in his last start Thursday against the Rockies. We welcome those of you over to FS1 joining us after watching the Dodgers survive the Washington Nationals and take a 1-0 lead in that best-of-5 series with John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian just underway here in Chicago. Cueto's next pitch to Dexter Fowler swung on and missed, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, you can see how fast that Johnny Cueto works, and he'll vary that too. Sometimes a quick slide step, sometimes the rocking chair, sometimes the Louis Tiant. There you see it.
On the corner, and a generous corner it was.
Dexter Fowler, one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. This offense really goes when he goes, and you see this backdoor slider. Johnny Cueto's going to throw fastballs, changeups, and sliders and alter his delivery to mess with the timing of the hitters. That's the goal of a pitcher, whether it be by pitches, changing the eye level and eyesight and timing of the hitters, or by your delivery. He does it all, trying to really mess with the hitter.
One away now for the still reigning Rookie of the Year, Chris Bryant, who followed up his tremendous inaugural season in the big leagues last year with an MVP caliber 2016. 39 home runs, 102 driven in, and getting the start at third base tonight. Making his season even more incredible, the fact that he's played so many positions and been moved around as often as he has in Joe Maddon's grand scheme. 2 balls and no strikes from Johnny Cueto to 2-1.
Well, if Bryant has any kryptonite, it's a right-handed changeup to a right-handed batter, and that's the one scenario where he has not been able to do much. 0-91, and Johnny Cueto, I would assume, would throw some changeups to Mr. Bryant if he's given the count in his favor.
You know, for Johnny Cueto, he's posted one of the game's best ERAs since 2013, 4th lowest in baseball over that time. And he's done so with decreasing usage of the fastball. Since that year, there are only 3 starters with qualified innings that have thrown the fastball more infrequently. It's a full count now to Bryant, 3-2.
There was the changeup right there. Bryant's done a great job 1 year to the next. We know how talented he is. We know the numbers that he's put up, but he's cut down his strikeouts significantly. He changed his bat path through the zone to try to do that, and it's been successful. And he probably is going to get rewarded with an MVP trophy before it's all said and done. Good shot right there of the changeup, the wiggle.
Full count offering to Bryant on its way. Back to Cueto. He fumbles with it for a moment, but gets it to Belt in time for round number 2.
I'm telling you, been there, done that. Those balls look like they come back at him a little harder. This one's just jammed, and it just catches you in an awkward spot as you follow through with your delivery. Cueto's a pretty good athlete. And obviously you got to be a pretty good athlete to be able to have those type of deliveries in balance to deliver and execute your pitches.
A reminder for those of you watching us on MLB Network, at the conclusion of this half inning, find us on FS1, as we'll be headed there as soon as this half inning comes to a close. Here's Anthony Rizzo now with 2 out and the base is empty. He takes a strike.
Now you see where Posey just set up. Anthony Rizzo as a hitter is going to bait the pitchers into thinking you can't do that 3 times. He gets on top of the plate. He takes away the inside part of the plate and crushes pitches away. That followed with a changeup. But what Anthony Rizzo does over time in 162 games knows that the pitching is not good enough to make 3 really good pitches and tie him up in there. So as the game goes on tonight, let's see how many times Cueto can get inside on Rizzo.
With 2 strikes, choking up as he has for much of the last couple of years, and it's still a 0-2 count to Anthony Rizzo, who has not really enjoyed his time head-to-head with Johnny Cueto. Just 3 for 25 lifetime against the San Francisco right-hander, and plenty of matchups after Cueto's 7.5 years in Cincinnati.
And part of that, I think, Matt, is because he can get the ball inside and then change speeds with that changeup. He tried to backdoor a slider right there. For Johnny Cueto, his command is his strength, and when he's good, that's what the Giants have seen most of the year and most of the second half.
Little pause at the top of the delivery, and it's still a 1-2 count to Anthony Rizzo. We visited with Buster Posey before the game today, and I know you, among many, were curious to ask him if Buster has any sense as to which of the many deliveries of Johnny Cueto is headed his way.
He said he really doesn't, but that Johnny Cueto is one of the best at recognizing the hitter, and when he recognizes the hitter in the swing, that's when he does this.
Still a 1-2 count to Anthony Rizzo.
You can see a little bit of balance point, turns his back to the hitter, and then he'll speed it up. It's fascinating to see how many different ways he can get a hitter out.
Quick pitch, and Rizzo was waiting for it, lines it out to right, handled by Hunter Pence, however, to put an end to a 1-2-3 bottom of the first. And for those welcome back to Chicago, where everybody's attention has been captured by what's happening in Wrigleyville. Cubs after a historic home season here. More home wins this season than in any other vintage of Chicago Cubs baseball. And you can bet there was excitement here starting in the wee hours of the morning. folks have been anticipating this day all season long. Hunter Pence leading off against John Lester. A bouncer over the bag. Baez bobbles. Pence runs well. And the Giants have their leadoff hitter aboard for the second consecutive inning.
Baez is so good. If he doesn't juggle this ball, he's got a chance. But as soon as he comes up with it, he's got a little bit of a transfer juggle, and you can understand how far he had to go to get it. Still had the ability to throw the ball to first base on line. This guy is so good defensively for the Cubs. See where he's set up. Lester, the ball gets right over his head. But Pence, so unorthodox in everything he does, but so good at everything he does.
Leadoff hitter aboard now for the former Cub, the switch hitter Angel Pagan. Pagan hit 12 home runs this year. Not known as a power hitter, but the 12 home runs a career high. And he enjoyed quite a spike in slugging percentage from a year ago. It's a Giants team that does not hit a lot of home runs. Pagan with a swing and a fly ball out to left. Zobrist is there, camped under it for the first out.
And he's yet to register a hit against John Lester.
So one out with one on, and that'll bring up the 2015 All-Star, the left-handed hitting shortstop Brandon Crawford.
Two of the better shortstops in one field right here, both Russell and Crawford, and their ability to play defense. And Crawford becoming much more a complete player as he progresses in his career offensively, but defensively, no one's ever questioned how good he has been and is, and a cannon for an arm.
And no one's ever questioned how much Brandon Crawford enjoys hitting here at Wrigley Field. He's got a career on base percentage here that is in the top 5 among active players. Pass off the bag at first. Stolen only one base all year long, and Crawford swings and misses to fall even at 1-1.
Now what Lester will do by not throwing over to first base, he'll vary his times. He'll hold it, he'll watch the runner, then there'll be another time where he'll go quicker, but his delivery for a left-hander to home plate is pretty quick. Doesn't have the high leg kick, doesn't rely on that deceptive move. He is just going to try to get it home as fast as he can. There's the hold. Anything to disrupt the timing. You'll even see Rizzo kind of come out in front of the bag to create a little bit of a deception problem. But the biggest thing that the runners don't do is trust when, if, maybe he'll throw over there. He doesn't. You just got to go on first movement if you decide to go.
Crawford sprays the ground ball to third. Bryant has only one play, and that's on Crawford. There are 2 gone. It remains a curious thing how somebody like John Lester, a veteran pitcher that's enjoyed so much success, 4-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ, does not feel comfortable throwing the ball to first base. It's as simple as that. And you can tell opposing base stealers that he won't go there. You can show him the numbers. He's gone huge chunks of time without ever throwing to first, and it's still, like you said earlier, hard to trust if you're that base runner.
It's pretty amazing in the American League. We know that stealing bases is kind of like a lost art, but until that wild card game, this was nothing known other than, really? He hadn't thrown over to first base all year, and then you saw what the Royals were able to do in that comeback victory when John Lester was with the Oakland A's, and then that became his kryptonite. Same thing with a Syndergaard, same thing with Arrieta, same thing when you mentioned my former teammate Greg Maddux. They were so good at preventing them to get on base, but then when they got on base, they were not going to allow their delivery affect a pitch to home plate. Therefore, the runners ran wild.
Kelby Tomlinson with an opportunity with the runner in scoring position here in 2 gone. Scoreless, top of the 2nd. Tomlinson appearing on a postseason roster for the first time in his career. Fans make a afforded Lester in another 2-strike, 2-out count.
The other area that John has been so good this year is in situations like this, runners in scoring position. He gives up nothing. He makes it very difficult to string together some big innings. 173 batting average against when runners are in scoring position. And 2 outs, 0.65. That's stingy.
Tomlinson with a comebacker that Lester will handle without problem. And another leadoff hitter aboard, left stranded. You don't expect a lot of runs given the quality of the starting pitching matchup. Johnny Cueto and John Lester tonight. To the bottom half of the second, Ben Zobrist to lead things off for Chicago. 3-4-5 for Joe Madden. It'll be Zobrist, Russell, and Hayward for the Cubs. The 3-time All-Star Ben Zobrist, of course, brought in a 4-year deal this past December. Starting in left field tonight. That same versatile player that starred for Joe Madden for a number of years in Tampa, St. Pete, showing his versatility again as a Cub. Nothing in one, the counts of Ben Zobrist, who last year was one of the big cogs in the Kansas City wheel of success. Hit .303 in the Royals' memorable postseason run of a year ago. His former Kansas City teammate deals and misses inside.
Zobrist got off to a great start this year, reached base 35 straight games, on base percentage nearing 500. Cooled off since then. April and May he was on fire. June to September leveled off at about a .235 batting average, but He knows how to get on base. That's all he's done for the last 6 years.
You bet. 2-2 now, and you can hear him tell the home plate umpire, Todd Titchener, that he felt that ball was outside.
Yeah, he was asking him to bring it up, too. That's that backdoor slider.
That's where Cueto got the call to strike out Dexter Fowler, and I think Joe Maddon's very aware that if Johnny Cueto is going to get that pitch tonight, it could be a long night for the home team.
But just remember what side of the plate that's on. That's on the arm side, left side, away from a left-hander.
A swing and a miss by Zobrist. 2 strikeouts for Cueto tonight. As we mentioned, it is Todd Titchener behind the plate. Additional umpires in the postseason down the lines, and that's where the crew chief John Hirschbeck is. He's in left. 6-man crew here in the division series.
And see, that's a great example of taking advantage of a called strike from Johnny Cueto and throwing a changeup away.
Addison Russell picks on the first pitch and sends a fly ball to right. Hunter Pence is there, and there are 2 gone.
And what that did was put Zobrist right on a sensitive alert to that pitch away that could be called, so he had to attack it. That side of the plate has been more receptive early on for strikes than the right side of the plate or inside to a left-hander. So here's the changeup off of a backdoor slider in the same area. You're expecting that hitter to recognize that that's probably going to be in the same area. The fade and the changeup and change of speed's got the strikeout.
So 2 gone, bases empty now for the right fielder Jason Hayward.
I've always said, as a pitcher, you are just trying to find the spot that you can get an inch or 2 more. Wherever that is, you just want to find it. And then once you find it, you expose it as much as you can. It's your go-to place. And every umpire, for the most part, has one of those spots on one or the other side. And it's almost impossible to be equal.
A ball and a strike to count to Hayward to 1-2 now. Jason Hayward, like many of the Cubs in the starting lineup tonight, not bringing a very robust line career against Johnny Cueto. Just 4 for 18 in previous meetings. As Cueto puts the finishing touches on another 1-2-3 inning. 6 up, 6 down against the Giant right-hander to start the night. To the top of the third, Connor Gillespie leads things off for San Francisco. Gillespie, then the pitcher's spot, Johnny Cueto, and top of the order, Gorkys Hernandez. Well, Connor Gillespie just a .262 batting average through 100 games during the regular season, but a bigger moment has not been had by many than the moment Gillespie had to win the ball game, the dramatic home run in New York in the wild card game, and he stays red hot with a base hit into right field to start out the inning. The leadoff hitter aboard once again for San Francisco.
Well, something that this team does very well that was unnoticed, and that's make contact when they have to. And this at bat, 2-2. Watch the pitch. That led to a walk. That ability to foul that pitch off and then work a walk allowed this to happen. And that 3-run homer, along with Madison Bumgarner, is the reason why the Giants are alive and well in pursuit of another, maybe improbable, World Series championship run.
It's a great point. It's the moment before the moment that we kind of lose, and the Giants struck out fewer times than any other National League team. As we're going to have a little change here. This was something that came up at the end of the regular season. Anthony Rizzo is putting on a different glove. He's wearing a second base, a traditional infielder's glove, because he's going to switch positions with Javi Baez. And it was at the end of the season when Rizzo switched to play second base that it was brought up that, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that unless Rizzo puts on a non-first baseman's glove. Snap throw down to first, and they got him!
Well, you got Rizzo in looking for the bunt, and then this is a setup play. They pitch away and then have the pick play at first. You know, we talk about the rest that this team has, but they were able to go back and work on every play for the last 4 days, setting up a scenario just like this.
Now the Giants have put their leadoff hitter aboard in 3 straight innings, and they've run themselves right out of 2 opportunities. Gorkys Hernandez caught stealing, and Gillespie picked off.
And I tell you, David Ross is not having it right now with the strike zone. He's talking to the umpires saying, my pitcher and our hitters aren't getting the same strike zone. Let's go for John Lester.
Nice strike to Cueto.
It's an amazing setup defense where the first baseman's not afraid of a hitter or a pitcher turning himself into a hitter by slashing.
And a bunt fouled by Cueto to make it 2-2.
You will see this later in the game if it plays out. Rizzo will come charging in as you see the pickoff play. He will come charging in to be within 10 feet of the batter. And what the runner's trying to do is gauge how far he can get off the bag, so when the bunt's down, he can get a good jump to second.
Cueto bunts. Ross is on it. Pretty good bunt, but Ross is able to make the play. I think Dave thought that was out number 3.
He's fired up.
He is fired up.
Last season, gets to play when his buddy's on the mound, John Lester, so that package to get him through the game to win, he takes so much pride in it.
Back to the top of the order, Gorkys Hernandez. The Cubs are an outstanding defensive team. So, by the way, are the Giants. San Francisco led the league in fielding percentage. Hernandez sounded like he broke his bat, sends that one to left. Zobrist is under it before we can even continue the theme. Lester and Ross get him out of the inning. The beginning of an emotional night in Chicago, still scoreless. Off in the Chicago half of the third. Bottom third of the order, Baez, Ross, and Lester against Johnny Cueto.
See the numbers there. 4 strikeouts and 6 at bats. This young man has done an incredible job from 1 year ago, where he struck out just about every game. He's cut down his strikeouts significantly this year.
Big swing and a high fly ball slicing into shallow center. Hernandez has it, and there's one away. Let's take it back to that exciting play with Anthony Rizzo charging on the bunt. We've seen it before, John. We saw it at the end of August for the first time in LA.
It's incredible how far he gets in there. They know that the pitcher's not going to pull the ball. So right here, the reason he's not charging is because they got a play on it. And that's a pickoff play, and it worked perfectly right away. You do not see this kind of alignment by anybody else other than Joe Madden.
One out for David Ross. And Ross takes a strike. We didn't even really have a chance to talk about Joe Madden and the kind of gamesmanship that Clint Hurdle threw at him at the end of the season when he had Anthony Rizzo cover the bump play as a second baseman. Clint Hurdle actually was the one that made him put the second baseman's glove on. Pitch stays high to David Ross, and it's 2 balls and a strike now.
Well, Joe Madden has done a lot of things in his managerial days. Some would say, oh, that can't work with the Rays. You can't bring what he does to the Rays into Chicago. And not only has he done it, it's been successful. He doesn't just throw ideas out and see what happens. It's everything is calculated.
Well, and it's all working in simpatico with the players that the front office has either brought in via free agency or in many cases with this Cubs team drafted. He's got the personnel to do that.
What a job by Theo Epstein. Can you imagine doing it in Boston and Chicago?
Ross with a drive to left field. That ball's well hit. Hernandez slides at the ivy to make a brilliant catch.
Well, Hernandez, the wind holds this up in the gap. The wind is blowing from left field to right field. So when he gets to that point, the ball is on a downward coming almost back to him. See how he has to adjust and catch it from almost behind him as he's sliding. So playing at Wrigley Field, you have to know what the wind does. In BP, you test it out as a hitter. As a pitcher, you watch what happens.
Eddie Vedder was just as excited as anybody at the play. He was more excited than Theo.
Well, Theo's seen more games here and knows how that wind plays.
There are 2 gone now for John Lester with the bases empty. You know, you make a good point about the wind, John. We still, for some reason, consider Wrigley Field the kind of wind-blown bandbox that it was in the middle 70s when Mike Schmidt would come here and hit 4 homers in an afternoon, and the Phillies and Cubs would get together and plate 50 runs. It has not been that of late. Joe Madden credits his pitching staff, guys like John Lester. But the wind has blown in this year at Wrigley more often than it has blown out, more often than there's been a crosswind. And that's resulted in a lot of low-scoring pitching and defense type games here this year.
It sure has, and it affects the strategy of a pitcher. And credit the pitchers for the Cubs. They've dominated at home.
A wave and a miss by Lester, and Johnny Cueto has been perfect through the first 3 in this one tonight. Scoreless in Chicago. Game 2 of the Dodgers-Nationals Division Series at 4 Eastern on FS1. Giants and Cubs 8 Eastern on MLB Network. And Sunday, ALDS Game 3. The doubleheader starting at 4 Eastern on TBS. And a very quick out as Brandon Belt is retired to start the visitors' half of the 4th. No score with Hall of Famer John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian back at Wrigley Field. And that's the first time John Lester has retired the Giants' leadoff hitter tonight.
Yeah, the Giants were doing exactly what you need to do against a guy who's hot as John Lester is. Get the leadoff guy on, create some havoc. And unfortunately for the Giants, they got a guy thrown out at second and a guy picked off at first to kill those potential rallies.
There's Buster Posey now with one away and offers at the first pitch and dumps a base hit into left field. Buster Posey has done his best work throughout his career against left-handed pitching. That continues here. And there's a one-out base runner in the San Francisco 4th.
Posey's had good numbers against John Lester, and really, as you talk about that power outage, I can't help but think that whether it's a thumb injury or just getting beat up as a catcher, Posey, the heart and soul of the Giants, really just lacking the power this year as he's been able to hit for a high average as a catcher. He'll play a first base every once in a while, get a break from behind the plate.
Here's Hunter Pence now. Pence takes a breaking ball for a strike. That ends a stretch of 3 straight San Francisco hitters offering at the first pitch. Yeah, you know, you talk about Posey and what happened after the All-Star break. Hit only 3 home runs, slugged under 400. And though Buster never offered it as an excuse, there were a lot of people around the Giants that thought the thumb injury was exactly the reason for that power outage.
Well, on 0-2, here's where Posey can be, as I said, very unorthodox. Find a way to put the bat on the ball, as the team does as a whole on the year. They put the ball in play, Posey especially.
Next offering to Hunter Pence misses upstairs, and it's a ball and 2 strikes. As we mentioned, the Giants do not strike out a lot. Hardest team to strike out in the National League. Posey aboard with 1 gone. Angel Pagan waiting on deck, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. I mean, you're really begging when you think that's.
It's the playoffs, Matt.
Come on.
They are fired up.
Come on, guys.
You'll see the crowd here, and then wait till you see the crowd in San Francisco. Playoff baseball doesn't get any better for a fan, for a player.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Hunter Pence. Posey with an enormous lead off of first base, and Pence shoots it foul.
Well, Pence broke up a no-hitter here against Lester on an unorthodox swing, a little backdoor cutter, if I remember correctly. He had a no-hitter going. Watch this little reach out and break it up, break up the no-hitter, the shutout. That's the kind of swings that Hunter Pence can put on. He looks off balance. He has tremendous power the other way when he looks like he's just fooled.
Pence swings and sends a ball to left. This one knocked down in plenty of room for Zobrist to make the catch, and there are 2 away.
Lester just got it in enough after pitching away. He comes inside. Pence in a little bit of a protect mode, couldn't get his hands through. He's another one like Rizzo, chokes up on the bat. Fly balls that are hit high tonight, unless it's to right field, I don't think you're going to get much out of them.
So here's Angel Pagan again. He flied to left in his first try tonight.
I'm telling you, I know Posey may not do it. He could get a walking lead and just keep going.
He's almost past the cutout there at first base. And again, it's drawn no throw from John Lester. That first pitch misses.
Well, this would be the least guy that you would think would go. So John Lester would be less worried about a Buster Posey here, and especially with 2 outs, you could decide and keep walking and then take off the first movement you see. But that's the side of the plate, okay? Those could have been definitely a little bit off. but that's the side of the plate so far that has not erred on the side of an inch off or 2 inches off. So that's what we talked about earlier. John Lester gets that pitch, it's over, because he commands the inside pitch about as well as any left-hander that I've seen.
Two balls and no strikes to Angel Pagan. To 3-0 now.
Just off, and the patience of Pagan. He knows that the previous pitches were not called, so nothing should change.
Ball that just missed, courtesy of PitchCast, powered by MLB Advanced Media. Here's the 3-0 home. 3 balls and a strike to Pagan now.
You saw Lester there, like, what's the difference? As a pitcher, your view is going to be skewed. I'll admit it, right? You got to go back inside to see it yourself, and that one typically we show that off the plate. But when you're pitching and the angle of where you release the ball, you think those pitches are better than they are.
Broken bat flare out to shallow left. Coming on is Zobrist, and it gets past him. Posey on his way to third. He's held there, and the Giants have runners in scoring position with 2 away in the 4th.
Wow, I'll tell you what, anyone but Posey maybe scores on this play with 2 outs. You see the ball sinking. Zobrist can play multiple positions. He's in left field. Just doesn't get the glove down. And Posey, he's forgot how many outs there were right there. A little hesitation right there, and you could tell he's thinking to himself right now, like,
Well, so it's going to be up to Brandon Crawford if that's what Lester elects to do. Face one of the Giants' bigger RBI threats, 84 for Crawford during the regular season.
He'll be aggressive early.
And he does catch the corner on that pitch.
John Lester's going to be happier on this side of the plate. That's the side of the plate that has been a little more lenient on close pitches.
Crawford was outstanding with runners in scoring position before the All-Star break. He hit .356 to lead the team. But he, like so many of his lineup mates, could not reproduce that success after the break. Hit only .186 with RISP after the All-Star game.
John Lester gets him here. Watch some of the emotion that he'll display. It won't be as happy as it will be angry.
Still 0-2 to Brandon Crawford.
Started him with a cutter away, went in, went up. See if he goes back to the cutter away on this 0-2 count.
Crawford ended the regular season hot. He's reached base in 22 straight, including the All-Star game. Including the wild card game, that is. That one's going to get out of play, and it stays 0-2.
That one caught too much of the plate right there. 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Supposed to be away, and this pitch comes out over the middle of the plate. The velocity is probably the one thing that John was able to get away with Crawford on an 0-2 pitch. Too good of a pitch.
Still 0-2 to Crawford. Pagan at second, Posey at third with 2 away. Slapped to shortstop. Russell takes care of his opposite number, and John Lester is in and out of trouble in the 4th. Still scoreless at Wrigley. With MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. It's the only place to get it all. Live radio feeds, video highlights, pitch tracking, StatCast, and much more. Download At Bat today. Still scoreless in Chicago. The Cubs half of the 4th, looking for their first base runner against Johnny Cueto, who's been perfect through 3. Top of the order, Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo.
Yeah, it's the scenarios of visiting pitcher and a hostile crowd. You want to keep them to a dull roar. And what I mean by that is, you know, they're going to be amped up and exciting. So far, most of the cheering for the Cubs fans has been on the defensive side or the pitching side, with Lester getting out of some jams. Offensively, they've yet to get going, and that's the job of Johnny Cueto. Dull roar, not too many big high pressure situations or innings.
You know, I think we got past the whole Cueto drops the ball at PNC in the wild card game of a few years ago with his great World Series last year. He's picking up right where he left off as a Royal last October. On the ground to the shifted shortstop. Crawford takes care of Fowler. There's 1 away. Defense has been strong on both sides so far. The Cubs employing one of their trick plays, if you will, defensively to cut down a potential rally in the 3rd when David Ross was able to pick off Connor Gillespie, a play we asked Joe Madden about between innings.
So all this stuff started in spring training. We did freshen up a couple days ago. Tuesday we had a sim game. Wednesday we freshened up on some defensive stuff. And you can see David's been great at that play all year. David's just a really good, smart catcher.
John Lester, no doubt he has the emotion. He has everything you need. Wiggled out of some jams early on. That's got to be a good sign, even with the leadoff hitter getting on 3 different times.
Absolutely, yeah. He's done that all year, though. That's one thing about Johnny. You can get a couple guys on it that doesn't really bother him. I know there's been a lot made of, a few people stealing bases, etc. But you go, we go. But for the most part, man, people get out there. He does a great job. Look at his ERA.
Chris Bryant rattles a double into the left field corner. And the Cubs not only had their first hit of the night, they've got a runner in scoring position.
Well, you see where that pitch was. You see how flat his swing was over the strike zone. And this ball has a little bit of topspin that gets by. And for a double. Listen, Bryant's had an unbelievable year. The rest may have helped him more than anybody. He was struggling in September. And maybe that little 3-4 days of jolt rest will help get that bat fresh again. They're hoping so, because Bryant's been huge offensively for the Cubs.
Yeah, just 4 for 23 down the stretch at the end of September. But his double gives Anthony Rizzo an opportunity with 1 away. 109 RBIs for Rizzo during the regular season. Chicago with an opportunity here with their big hitting 2 and 3 part of the lineup. You tell me, if one is a stronger MVP candidate than the other, I would need to be convinced, because I got him at a dead heat on the last day of the season.
Yeah, Rizzo is their leader, of course, but he's been very consistent. And if he doesn't win the MVP, he'll be a tremendous supporting actor for the MVP that bats in front of him.
He lined to right in his first try. Yanks that one clean out of the building.
And see, that's what I was talking about, how he invites you in there, because really that's the only thing he can do with that pitch. If you execute a great pitch against Rizzo, see where the location is. It almost looks like it's going to hit his hip pocket. He can only pull that foul. Now with 2 strikes, he's going to choke up on the bat, which gives him better bat control. And if you make a mistake in there, he doesn't sacrifice power.
Shortening up again on 2 strikes. And it's still an 0-2 count.
By being on top of the plate, he just spoiled a pitch that was 2 to 3 inches off the plate. He just has this philosophy. A, he's not afraid to get hit, first and foremost, as you see what he's done and these guys have done.
I mean, it is just amazing right down the middle, the damage that both Rizzo and Bryant did this year. Rizzo a little better with runners in scoring position, 341. Best on the team, 4th best in the National League.
Tay Posey is such an underrated catcher, play caller. Of course, we know him for his offense. Watch how late he sets up. He doesn't want to give Bryant at second base any ability to let Rizzo know location or anything. He'll give his signs, and then he'll move also suddenly late and trust that Cueto's going to get the ball in that area.
Ball and 2 strikes to Anthony Rizzo. He stays alive there with that shortened up 2-strike approach, but he doesn't sacrifice a lot of power. His slugging percentage with 2 strikes at .417 is the best, 5th best in baseball. It's amazing how he can still hit for power, and he swings it like Mickey Rivers and Juan Pierre with 2 strikes.
Well, because those swings are, if anything, are going to be flares. He's just spoiling a great pitch. He's still waiting for a mistake over the plate, and he can so strong that he can pull his hands in and play with power, especially to right field. You've got to elevate the ball against him. I'm sure they're going to have this discussion right now. Hey, look, he's been covering away. Do we go back in? That's why Rizzo's so good. He stays inside the ball as good as anybody, and he'll spoil the pitcher's pitch away and waiting for that mistake.
Ball and 2 strikes. It remains to Rizzo. You know, just for context, when you hear somebody slugging .417, that's on 2 strike counts. The major league average is .282.
They got him set up for a changeup if they want to go there. They've gone away. They went back in. They moved his feet just a little bit. There's the changeup.
And a chopper to Tomlinson, who is in short right. He gets it to Belt in time. There were 2 away. Bryant takes 3rd on the play.
So what happens on a guy that's looking to make contact? The changeup down creates the ability for him to actually do exactly this. Last minute swing, and that's the only thing he can do with it in a protective mode. Great sequence for Posey and Cueto. The conversation on the mound, you want to be as confident as a duo as you can. And talking to Posey, he said his English is good enough. He understands what I'm trying to do, and I understand what he's trying to do.
So now Ben Zobrist. Zobrist, a strikeout victim, back in the second. 1 of 3 so far. Line to second. Tomlinson gets it on a hop. And Johnny Cueto keeps the Cubs off the board despite the 1-out double in the 4th. On to inning number 5. The Giants and Cubs still scoreless in game 1. Francisco order in the top half of the 5th. A scoreless game at Wrigley Field. Kelby Tomlinson, Connor Gillespie, and then Johnny Cueto. And John Lester back to work. Lester stranded 2 in the 4th. He yielded leadoff singles in each of the first 3 innings tonight. The Giants were unable to get anybody past second through all that. An opportunity with second and third and 2 away in the 4th, and Lester slammed the door on Brandon Crawford to keep the game 0-0.
Well, for John Lester, you try to approach every game as it's 0-0. But when you're in a playoff situation and you're at home and the pressure is on your ball club because the expectations are so high, you just want to alleviate as much stress as you can by getting that leadoff hitter out. He's not happy with some of the pitches on that side of the plate. So it's been a little bit of a grind for John in some areas, but he has come up big. That pitch is right there. Sorry, Matt.
Hey, don't apologize to me. Here's a 3-1. And it's a full count now. Well, you know, John Lester made 2 starts against the Giants this year. And in the first, in mid-May at AT&T, we were there for that one. He lasted only 2 2/3, gave up 5 runs on 6 hits and 3 walks. And it was the same kind of frustration that he seems to be experiencing tonight with a lot of borderline pitches that weren't going his way. The difference is tonight, he's been able to keep the Giants off the scoreboard despite that. Still a full count, 3-2 to Kelby Tomlinson.
Well, he's had so much experience in these situations. That helps. I'd say experience is only as good as if you put yourself in a position to execute. So the Giants have tremendous experience. 12 players, 3 rings on their roster. If they put themselves in position to utilize that experience, then it's helpful.
Still a full count to Kelby Tomlinson. And now David Ross comes out for a visit.
And what I mean to clean that up, what I mean is you can't just rely on experience to get it done. You have to execute. So what experience in these situations is you don't get carried away, you don't get too high, too low, too frustrated, although we're seeing some frustration as the importance of some of these pitches dictate the count in favor of the hitter or in favor of the pitcher. That's a big swing. But you're not allowing the game to go too fast. You allow the game to slow down and make it as close to a regular season game as you can.
Here's the 3-2, and Tomlinson's unable to hold up.
Now, this is just a combination of being consistent and stubborn on this side of the plate. I believe he called that a strike and didn't call it on the swing. And you've seen there's a lot of pitches right there. Tomlinson, I don't blame you for not swinging. But John got the call.
Here's Connor Gillespie now with 1 away. Gillespie singled in the 3rd. That makes him 8 for his last 15. Picking on the first pitch here, a pop for Baez. We had a chance to visit with Giants pitching coach Dave Righetti between innings, and moments ago John asked him this.
Dave, I got to ask you, between you and Bruce Bochy, how do you have any nerves left? Seriously, everything you guys do, close games, it's got to be an incredible journey to have watched this many clutch performances.
Johnny, it's you're right, it is. And if you don't, if you worry about it too much, your stomach will get ate up. You know, you close. There's nothing worse than closing and waiting for 7, 8 innings for that darn phone to ring so you can get up and get rid of those nerves. And as a coach, it stays with you the whole time. It never leaves.
Well, you and Dave Righetti sharing that closer/starter's role in your playing careers as Cueto tries to bunt his way aboard and falls behind 0-2.
You know, it's so true. When you're out on the mound, you can do something about this game. When you're watching it, you're sick to your stomach. I mean, playing is so much easier, believe it or not, it was for me, than sitting knowing you couldn't contribute. You're just rooting for your teammates.
Lester looking for a 1-2-3 inning here in the 5th, and that one bunted foul off of David Ross. That's it.
Yeah,
foul, and that'll do her. Everybody stayed on the field to see what was up with David Ross, but the foul bunt with 2 strikes means a 1-2-3 fifth for John Lester. Continues tomorrow. Game 2 of the Dodgers-Nationals Division Series at 4 Eastern on FS1. Giants and Cubs are here at 8 Eastern on MLB Network. And Sunday, an ALDS Game 3 doubleheader starting at 4 Eastern on TBS. And a couple of teams trying to climb out of 0-2 holes in the American League.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, hard to believe this game won't be over before 2 teams have already played twice. And those 2 teams, maybe not the expected results. The best team in the American League, Texas, down 2. Let's not forget last year, I think the Toronto Blue Jays were down 2 and came back and won that series. And then the Boston Red Sox going to the injured-plagued Cleveland Indians. They don't seem so injured right now.
The difference there is that Boston's going home down 0-2. Toronto's going home with a 9-inning span between they and the American League Championship Series. Little postseason history between Boston and Cleveland. Meanwhile, here still scoreless. Addison Russell leading things off in the home 5th.
And I'm telling you, Matt, I've played in so many of these. That's why it's such a mental, tough challenge more than it is physical, because best of 5, the hiccup or the surprise loss makes you feel like, wow, we don't have much room for error. And you just have to deal with it by a game-by-game basis and not get carried up with what's next, who's next, and oh, by the way, Bumgarner looming in Game 3, which seems to be the topic of this series because of how dominant Bumgarner has been in the postseason.
2 balls and 2 strikes, the count to Addison Russell. I mean, the Bumgarner factor notwithstanding, teams that win Game 1 in a best-of-5 division set have gone on to win 70% of those series. And that's something I'm sure the Red Sox are aware of, down 0-2. That's something I'm sure the Rangers are aware of, being down 0-2. And in a short series, to your point, game one is a big deal.
It is. And the Cubs last year, of course, most recent, they lost game one, but were able to win that series coming off of the wild card scenario and the momentum that they had this year, the 4-game rest. Now all the expectation is, can they make that deep run? Can they win that World Series? Because 103 wins would tell you they can.
Here's the 3-2 home from Cueto to Russell, fouled away. Well, the Cubs with such a historic run, 103 victories. However, history has not been kind to those that clinch first, as the Cubs did in middle September, September 15th to be exact. And a wave and a miss by Russell, who finally succumbs to the strikeout. That's number 4 for Cueto, 1 away. 100 win teams. There have been 22 of them since the advent of the wild card back in 1995. And as you get down to that final line, only 2 of those 22 100-plus win teams have won a World Series.
Well, I have my reasons, and I think that changes need to be made in the future. Hopefully they will, to reward a better season over 162 games. A little too many off days. Don't have to utilize your whole roster and pitching staff, which...
There's Jason Hayward now.
Part of the reason the Cubs are so good, they had the best 5 starters in game. They won't use 5 starters at any point during this run.
Yeah.
There's off days that come between series and off days that come in the series. There's not that many off days in a regular season in 162 games. So all those dynamics come into play.
Kyle Hendricks and Jeff Samardzija tomorrow, game 2 of this series on MLB Network.
But what I was saying earlier about when you think about this series and you start playing the what-if games, that's the dangerous mental challenge.
Posey and Belt hoping for a chance, and Posey's there to make the play in front of the friendly dugout for out number 2.
And so what happens is you hear people say, oh, well, if the Cubs go 1-1, they got to face Bumgarner in game 3. Well, they got Arrieta too. It's like this matchup, every game is going to be a tremendous matchup. That's what makes this series so intriguing. You just have to deal with each game at face value, not get carried away down the road.
Here's Javi Baez now with 2 out and the base is empty. Well, think about the fact that the Cubs have Major League Baseball's ERA leader, and he's not pitching game 1 of the series. Baez lines a base hit into right. Few could argue with the decision to start John Lester. He's the pedigree guy, and he had a phenomenal year, and he, with Kyle Hendricks, is a Cy Young candidate. But to have a guy like Hendricks, who won the Cy Young or the ERA title by a lot, as your game 2 starter, speaks to the depth of this staff. Oh, and Jake Arrieta, by the way, is your game 3 guy.
Well, I just marvel at these guys right now because these 2 teams have veteran starters, and they've all been able to develop and provide innings throughout the year. Of course, the Giants rely heavily on their starting pitching. The Cubs have a more well-balanced pitching staff, including their bullpen. Cueto, Samardzija, and of course Bumgarner were horses for the Giants this year, pitching a ton of innings.
David Ross fly to center in his first try tonight. Little check-in throw on Javi Baez, who has stolen 12 bags this year on 15 attempts.
Pitcher on deck. It's the hardest position to hit, the 8th hitter. Trying to guess if the pitcher's even going to challenge you in these spots.
David Ross has done great things at the plate on behalf of that guy, John Lester. Much has been written and said this year about the relationship they've had ever since their days in Boston together. Ross has been behind the plate for all but one of Lester's 32 starts this year, and it just seems, whether it's coincidence or not, his best offensive performances come when John Lester's in the ballgame.
talking with David Ross. He says when he gets to play once every 5 days, he feels it's must-win day. So whatever he can do behind the plate, whatever he can do at the bat, he's trying to get his pitcher through the game and his team a win.
Fastball misses the corner. And it's 2 balls and no strikes.
For the Cubs to make a deep run in the World Series and get to the World Series, they're going to need something beyond Zobrist in their lineup. The front 4 are pretty lethal, as you can see with MVP candidates and Fowler at the top. But this is the part of the lineup that's got to do something. Otherwise, teams are going to continuously make this part try to beat you if they can. Pitch around Zobrist, pitch around Rizzo and Bryant.
Back-to-back fastballs, and Ross can't catch up with that, the high hard stuff. And it's 2 balls and a strike. Again, the pitcher spot due up next with a runner on and 2 away in a scoreless game, last of the 5th. And it's 3 balls and a strike now. And there's no reason for Johnny Cueto to give in with Lester waiting next.
Well, exactly. I mean, in a perfect world, you want the pitcher leading off at any point in the game. But in a playoff game, you're not going to groove one in there and let David Ross, who, by the way, once every 16 or so at bats, can hit the ball out of the ballpark.
A full count now. 94-mile-an-hour fastball. Cueto can still get it into the mid-90s and hump up when he needs it, as he chose to there. As we talked about earlier, doesn't throw the fastball as often as he used to. You see what he has on 3 and 2 for David Ross. There's no way he challenges him with another fastball here. Is there?
If it's up, I think that's where he can beat David Ross. Up, down, David Ross has a chance to drive the ball in the gap. That's the one thing you're worried about as a pitcher. You don't want to give up that 2-out double.
Cueto out of the stretch. There goes Baez, and Ross fouls it back.
You know, going back to that start in Los Angeles, everyone holding their breath in San Francisco. When Cueto came out, what looked like an aggravated groin, but he shows no ill effects to that whatsoever. As we mentioned, the last 5 starts being very effective. Pitching great in the stretch when the Giants needed it. They had to win their last 4 just to get in.
Missed his second to last regular season start, but finished the month 4-0 with a 1.78 ERA. Baez running again. The next 3-2 pitch, he got him with the wrinkle. 5 strikeouts for Johnny Cueto through 5 shutout innings, plugging right along, scoreless in Chicago. Wrigley Field, the Giants have the top of the order here in inning number 6. Hernandez, Belt, and Posey against John Lester. Starters have dominated the night. There has been strong defense played on both sides. The Cubs have had to wiggle out of a few tighter spots than the Giants, most notably runners at second and third, 2 away in the 4th. Lester got out of that jam. And it's a 1-1 count to Gorky's Hernandez.
You see Lester breaking out the curveball now, 3rd time through the lineup. He's been firm with a lot of the guys early on, attacking with fastballs and 2 seamers.
Two balls and a strike. Catcher David Ross has played an important role for the Cubs tonight with a caught stealing and a pickoff. Gorky's Hernandez, the guy at the plate, been responsible for one of the big defensive moments in this game. Let's take another look at it via StatCast, powered by Amazon Web Services. Took a hit away in the gap.
You saw 91 feet. You saw the wind hold it up. A nice sliding catch. Giants, as do the Cubs, do everything they can to help themselves win a baseball game.
Full count to Gorky's Hernandez now. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Brandon Belt waiting next. Giants put the leadoff hitter aboard for 3 straight innings to start the ball game, unable to score in any of those 3 in a scoreless tie here in the 6th. In fact, they only got one of those guys as far as second base. Hernandez lines to shortstop. Russell's got it, and there is 1 away. His was one of the semi-surprises on the Giants postseason roster. And Gorky's Hernandez, as we mentioned, Ken Rosenthal, spent most of his season at AAA this year.
He did. The Giants signed him to a minor league contract January 26th. He did open some eyes in spring training, then had a good year with the bat. He had always been a really good defensive player, once a top prospect for the Braves. And down the stretch, they began playing him against left-handed pitching. And Denard Span had really good numbers against Lester. 8 for 28, 6 walks, 429 on-base percentage. But they wanted Hernandez's right-handed bat, and they love his defense.
And in there to start game 1 tonight. Yeah, we talked to Bruce Bochy about him before the game, and he was somebody that was on their radar in spring training. 0-1 to Brandon Belt, a ball and a strike now to the Giants' first baseman.
He also said that he had faced Rich Hill and, of course, Kershaw, and he had been having some success, so he wanted to continue that against Lester here and not stack his team with too many left-handers.
Two balls and a strike to Belt.
That really is going to be the theme. Past Lester, it's right-handed starters. But in the bullpen, the Cubs have 3 left-handers that can go in and take care of some of the left-handed batters that the Giants have out there.
Two and 2 to Belt. You know, and getting back to Gorky's Hernandez and what the Giants were after the break. I mean, Bruce Bochy at one point was desperate to try to shake up his lineup, try to generate some offense. At one point, he had Pence on the DL. He had Posey nicked up. He had Panic on the DL. He had Crawford in a slump. And it just didn't look like the Giants were going to score enough runs to get to the postseason. Belt swings and misses.
Matt, to his words, he said they could do nothing right. They were as bad as you can be in the second half, and as good as you can be in the first half. Looked like they were going to run away with the division. They had to get in on the last game and then play that magical game against the Mets in Citi Field, and then they're here. He said he's glad to be here, needless to say.
There's Buster Posey now with 2 gone and the base is empty. Posey has singled and flied to right tonight. Back to Lester, who will do it himself. That's 7 in a row retired by the Cubs left-hander. 5.5 gone, still scoreless in Chicago. 6th and had to improvise to get out of the top of the inning.
Yeah, if you're wondering why he ran it all the way over, well, he doesn't like to throw it in general, but the ball goes between the glove webbing, and he's decided he's going to do it himself. And it's not the only time this has happened to John Lester. We get a chance to show you a few different times, one where he did have to throw it over. But nonetheless, good fielding position, catches it, makes the out.
Lester leading off the 6th, followed by the top of the order, Fowler and Bryant. We are locked up in the same kind of pitchers duel that the Giants were locked up in on Wednesday at Citi Field in New York. Scoreless last of the 6th as Lester swings through.
Yeah, he's looking at him. That's dirty pool. That's pitcher on pitcher crime right there. He threw him a changeup when he was sitting on a fastball.
And he went around on the 2-strike check swing attempt. 6 strikeouts for Johnny Cueto tonight.
Well, here's the scenarios we were talking about before with John Lester on the mound. The ball's been hit back to him. Here in Pittsburgh, you see it's through the same glove, same webbing, and this time he throws it to his counterpart, who drops his own glove to make sure he catches that glove.
Channeling his inner Terry Mulholland.
And then you watch the look of, okay, all right, nasty changeup, make me look silly.
There's Dexter Fowler now. Fowler yanks that first pitch well foul. Lester and Cueto have been brilliant tonight. Dexter Fowler hitless so far this evening. He, like a few Cubs, has really been flummoxed by Johnny Cueto over the years, including tonight. 3 for 18 with 9 strikeouts. Missed inside, and it's 2-2.
Well, him and Posey have done just a great job tonight, mixing it up, going up when they need to, away with that backdoor slider, mixing in that changeup. But his fastball is playing with a lot of velocity and a lot of late life with command.
Check the count, 1-2. The next pitch misses to now make it 2 balls and 2 strikes.
And if you couple that with the hitter not knowing which delivery you're going to get, the timing of a hitter is so important when the pitcher goes through a traditional windup. He is not traditional.
Still 2-2. Chris Bryant waiting on deck with 1 out and the base is empty. Just a pair of hits for Chicago tonight. Bryant's doubled in the 4th. Baez with a 2-out single in the 5th. Along with the strikeouts, there has not been a base on balls issued tonight. Swing and a miss by Fowler. Back-to-back strikeouts start the 6th inning for Cueto. Our Bud Light game summary: it has been a pitcher's night at Wrigley Field this evening. The Giants with 14 consecutive scoreless innings to start the postseason. That is in the top 5 among longest streaks in Major League postseason history. David Ross has had a big night. Though it's a scoreless game, he's the first catcher with a pickoff and a caught stealing in the same postseason game for the Cubs since 1935.
Tell you what, Johnny Cueto in the scouting report, some of these Cub hitters love the first pitch. Bryant especially one of them, but he's putting them in spots where they can't do a whole lot with them. As you see the line scores between both these pitchers, 7 Ks for Cueto, 4, and no walks for either one of them.
It's hard to even imagine that there was a time before Johnny Cueto made that dominant Game 2 World Series start with the Royals last year. There was a time when his postseason abilities were questioned. There was the famous Cueto drops the ball in Pittsburgh. He had a shaky postseason start last year in the division series against Houston.
Yeah, he had a tough time adjusting to a new team and a new catcher, and one of the best catchers for Salvi Perez for the Kansas City Royals, but when he had to, he came up with a huge game after a bad one for Kansas City.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Chris Bryant.
What this man did in the city of Cincinnati, in that ballpark, is a hitter's dream, and he dominated baseball in that park in Cincinnati. The only question for Johnny Cueto was, could he stay healthy enough? Because he always had some lingering problems, and he has proven that to be the case. He's been healthy, he's been dominant.
Bryant swings and misses, and he strikes out the side, does Cueto in the 6th. 8 punch-outs for the Giants right-hander on the road tonight, still scoreless in Chicago. Hunter Pence, Angel Pagan, and Brandon Crawford trying to solve a scoreless tie. John Lester back to work. First offering home to Hunter Pence. His shot foul into the stands. Pence in this one has singled and flied to left. Now, of the 5 San Francisco hits, only 1 has been for extra bases, and that was Pagan's 2-out double in the 4th. Quickly 0-2 to Hunter Pence.
Well, Lester's done a great job in his pitch efficiency. Only 75 pitches so far. Even with the traffic on the bases, he got some quick outs. He got some help on the bases via pickoff at first, thrown out stolen base at second base. So he's in good shape to go deep in this game.
Pence pokes an 0-2 pitch to second for Baez, and there is 1 away. T-Mobile lets MLB fans dig into the game with unlimited LTE data on their smartphone. Show us how your baseball is, how your baseball fan is by using #UnlimitedBaseball for a free MLB Shop gift code and the chance to win tickets to every 2017 World Series game. Easy for me to say. One away here in the 7th inning, and Angel Pagan, again, who doubled back in the 4th, will dig back in the 7th. And a first pitch pop for Baez. 2 quick outs for Lester in the 7th.
You know, it's funny when we were talking about Baez with his manager, Joe Madden. We know how good defensively he feels about him, but he also said he's great on pop-ups. Now, you might take that as like, well, who isn't good on pop-ups? But his ability to go back on the ball and get those little bloopers or get the pop-up behind the first baseman, I think that's what he was talking about, and already a couple of them. Just such a graceful defender no matter which position he's at.
2 gone, bases empty now for Brandon Crawford. Yeah, Joe Madden has called Javier Baez his Swiss Army knife because he can open him up and play him at any position. He loves how aggressively he plays infield. And he is out there specifically behind John Lester, a part of his John Lester defense. Crawford hitless 0 for 2 tonight. Sends that into the opposite field for Zobrist. Another 1-2-3 inning for John Lester. He's retired 10 in a row. Up and stretching at Wrigley in a scoreless tie. And Addison Russell in the Chicago half of the 7th in a scoreless tie with Hall of Famer John Smoltz and Ken Rosenthal. Matt Vasgersian back at Wrigley Field. Been a fun one to watch so far tonight. Johnny Cueto and John Lester have been in complete control. There's a ball smothered by Tomlinson, and Rizzo is retired on a fine play to start the 7th.
Well, this is definitely what the shift was created for. You don't have to worry about the speed of the hitter. You can play super deep, as Tomlinson does a nice job on what looked like a base hit off the bat of Rizzo.
Shelby Tomlinson having a nice night defensively. And now Ben Zobrist with one out and the bases empty. Zobrist hitless 0 for 2 tonight.
I tell you, in being involved in these kind of games, when you're on the road and you get through the bottom half of the inning, you go, all right, just give me one, just give me one. And then if you're John Lester and you get through the top half, all I need is one. And that might be obviously all the team needs, is because both pitchers are locked in. As we saw in the wild card game, this is playing out so similar to what Bumgarner and Syndergaard were doing. And that's why I said, even to Dave Righetti, if you're in the Giants, how do you have any nerves left?
Strike to Zobrist, and it's 2-1.
It just seems like they play a lot of these games.
Well, I think it was the 2012 World Series run for the Giants that their veteran broadcast duo of Dwayne Kuiper and Mike Krukow called it torture, right? Wasn't that the 2012 team? And they meant it affectionately, of course, because it was torture watching the one-run games, watching the way they were able to eke out wins late.
Well, just to put it in perspective, Johnny Cueto, this will be the 13th game this year that his team has given him 2 runs or less. 13.
2-2.
And oh, by the way, he's 5-3 in those games. That's unheard of. When you're pitching in that many close games, you could expect to come out on the losing end more times than not. Well, Cueto at now the 13th game, that would match 13 games he's given 6 runs or more.
Cueto sitting on 8 strikeouts rather, which ties his postseason high. At one point it struck out 4 in a row before Rizzo grounded out to start this inning. Make it 9.
Both pitchers absolutely painting. And for Chicago, it's been obviously 5 days since they've gotten a groove to play a real game, and offensively have not been able to get on track against Johnny Cueto, and all of his motions and all of his change of speeds and locations. It has been absolutely a pitcher's gem tonight on both sides.
Addison Russell 0 for 2 tonight. And Russell behind 0-2 here. Aroldis Chapman would love to think he'll have an opportunity to pitch in this ball game. No need for any reliever to stir on either side as Russell bounces it sharply to third for Gillespie. And another 1-2-3 inning for Johnny Cueto, who's retired 7 in a row. A pitching and defense night here in Game 1. The Giants and Cubs head to the 8th. Scoreless. To inning number 8, the Giants have 7, 8, 9. Tomlinson, Gillespie, and then Cueto's spot against John Lester, who is showing no signs of yielding. He starts the 8th, having retired 10 in a row. Kelby Tomlinson's been victimized twice in his many tries. Only 5 hits allowed by John Lester tonight. He has not walked a batter. He struck out 4. Tomlinson sends a slicing liner out to right center, run down by Fowler, and there's 1 away. Postseason baseball continues tomorrow. Game 2 of the Dodgers National Series on FS1 at 4 Eastern. Giants and Cubs game 2 in this one is on MLB Network at 8 Eastern. And then on Sunday, a game 3 doubleheader in the American League starting at 4 Eastern on TBS. And tomorrow, with the Nationals down 1-0, they turn the ball over to Tanner Roark. And another left-hander for Los Angeles is Rich Hill will make a postseason start in D.C.
Tanner Roark's been unbelievable. Rich Hill reinventing himself, coming back from nowhere to now help the Dodgers, who seemingly had 20 starting pitchers to get them to this point. A much healthier Dodger team now.
Dodger bullpen's been amazing all year long. It's true again today as Gillespie sends a foul ball toward the stands and out of play. The Dodgers bullpen this year was the first ever to lead the league in ERA and innings pitched. And speaking of bullpens, the first bit of bullpen activity on either side tonight. Hunter Strickland is up for San Francisco.
Yeah, I would think this is just in case Gillespie hits a double or gets a hit. If he hits a double, maybe you take the chance and pinch hit. 2 opportunities to score.
Saw rolled as Chapman up for the Cubs. He is yet to begin throwing. And Kenny, before the game, Bruce Bochy told us the tale of Wednesday in the wild card game. Before Gillespie hit the game-winning home run, he was ready with a plan B.
He was, Matt, and Jared Parker was in the on-deck circle, ready to hit for Madison Bumgarner. But Bochy told Parker, look at me before you go up there. Look at me. Well, once Gillespie hit the home run, there was no need to hit for Bumgarner. The score was no longer tied. He didn't have to worry about getting that go-ahead run. Parker, though, was celebrating, and Bochy had to scream at him to get back in the dugout so Bumgarner could hit and remain in the game.
Could you have imagined if Parker was announced and they had to remove Bumgarner from that game? Gillespie swings and misses. And that's 5 strikeouts for Lester tonight.
Yeah, well, Bruce Bochy actually said he had to get Denard Span to go race out there and get him because Bochy couldn't get out there at any close to that speed, just to make sure the umpire didn't signal him in the game, which would have been the end of Bumgarner.
Cueto will have his 3rd plate appearance, and a chopper out to second base. Retires Cueto. 13 in a row retired by John Lester. Who's going to blink first? We're going to the bottom of the 8th, still tied. looked like a congratulatory handshake from Joe Madden to John Lester. 8 brilliant innings, 8 shutout innings for John Lester. 5 strikeouts, didn't walk anybody, scattered 5 hits, only one of them an extra base hit. But John Lester looks like he may be through for the night. Johnny Cueto, meanwhile, will continue. He'll try to match 8 scoreless innings and go back to work on Hayward, Baez, and Ross in the last of the 8th inning.
Yeah, you could see John Lester saying, I got this, I got this. He's due up 4th. You almost wonder if there would have been a 1-2-3 inning if he leaves him to pitch that 9th inning. The discussion in the dugout didn't look like that, but no one's up yet in the pen.
Hayward pops it up. Belt's got it, and there's 1 away.
Hayward has done a lot of that this year, and with the Cubs' success, he's been able to escape offensively one of the worst productive years he's had, because defensively he has value and he still has his legs. But man, it has been a very tough year for Jason Hayward offensively.
After that first out is recorded, the Cubs bullpen does get to work, and now here's Javier Baez digging in with the bases empty. It is a roll to Chapman in a scoreless game.
But also think that might be the end of David Ross. They pinch hit for David Ross with Lester being taken out of the game.
Chris Coughlin is standing in the on deck circle in Ross's place, so wheels turning in the home dugout here, and it's a ball and no strikes to Javi Baez.
This guy is just dangerous enough and has tremendous power. He's cut back on that wiggle that you're going to see in his mechanics of swinging the bat, which trying to make that change is a very difficult one for a young player, but that's helped cut down on his strikeouts. His power's off the charts, but his ability to expand the strike zone was off the charts last year as well. But one swing to make this crowd go crazy.
2 balls and a strike to count to Javier Baez. Well, you talk about him cutting down on the strikeout, something he did successfully while adding to his on-base percentage this year. Credit Joe Madden for putting him in the right spot more often than not as well. That's a foul ball, and it's 2-2. As recently as 2014, Javi Baez had struck out in 41% of his plate appearances. 41%. This year he cut it down to 24% of his plate appearances, and by the way, he logged in 450 of those, so it wasn't a tiny sample size over which he made that great improvement. Hitter, left-handed hitting Chris Coughlin, former National League Rookie of the Year, waiting on deck for Chicago.
That was the longest pause for Cueto right there before he delivered the pitch, and even Bill Murray saying, let's go.
A long-suffering Cub fan. The quick pitch. It looked, John, off the bat like that was going to get on out to Waveland.
It was. The wind was blowing that ball back as much as it possibly could, and I said this guy's power's off the chart. And that 3-2 3-2 pitch, and this crowd now could breathe a little bit as they have Chapman now. There is such an adrenaline rush for a closer, by the way, when your team scores that run versus coming into a game tied in the 9th inning. He may throw 105.
Well, he did it on a handful of occasions this year. I wouldn't bet against it. The first run of the game. Coughlin fouls off a pitch to make it 1-2. I mean to tell you, off the bat, it looked like Javier Baez had sent that one clean out of Wrigley Field. And when we saw Pagan go to the ivy, you thought for a moment there was a chance the wind was going to blow it back in and make it playable. That just snuck out into the basket for the home run.
I mean, that's the shortest home run you can hit in left field here. The ball was literally coming down. If the basket there or the fence is not there, it's not a home run because it would have hit the wall. And the wind, which is blowing consistently from left to right, was trying its best to keep that in the park.
Coughlin swings and misses. That's 10 for Johnny Cueto, but he's still thinking about the home run ball.
3-2 pitch, probably the only bad pitch. Now he knows it as soon as he hits it, but I don't think he's going to expect how close this is to not being a home run. But he squared it up, he barreled it, and that ball just gets right in the basket. Johnny Cueto has pitched an unbelievable game and made one mistake to a guy with a ton of power, and you see Bill Murray going, got him.
I think Bill Murray had that same moment. Hey, wait a minute, he crushed that ball, but it might not get out of here. It's quite a souvenir for somebody, by the way, and not even the earnest fans of left field are going to be able to reach that one because of some of the new scoreboard there. Tommy La Stella's the pinch hitter with 2 gone. You know, Joe Madden has a baseball in the clubhouse with the winning pitcher in the final score from all 103 of Chicago's wins this season. He laid out more kind of as a visual motivator. The 11 more baseballs it would take to win a World Series title. And if somebody can get into the basket to retrieve that one, and if the Cubs hang on to this game, it'll have John Lester's name written on it, and it will go on display as well. Stella sends a fly ball into center. Hernandez is there for it. And just like that, the Giants are down to their final 3 outs in game 1. The hard-throwing left-hander Aroldis Chapman will try to hammer it down as San Francisco has the top of the order. Playing from behind because of this. the AT&T call to the bullpen for the hard-throwing Cuban import left-hander Aroldis Chapman, who, believe it or not, despite all the great heroics during the regular season, has just his second ever postseason save opportunity before him tonight.
Well, this is what they went out and got, the final piece to what was hopefully going to be a long run and a complete team with the Cubs. The only thing, every once in a while, command issues.
Swings and misses to fall behind the ball and 2 strikes. The Giants have the top of their order. Hernandez, Belt, and Posey to try to summon up some late 11th hour magic on the road tonight.
But honestly, TV does this no justice of how hard this young man throws and what a hitter's challenge to try to react and decide whether it's a strike or not.
It is to catch. Just ask Wilson Contreras, who comes on in the 9th inning to try to handle him behind the plate.
You got to get a little lucky and cut your swing down and use his power to your advantage. If you have a big swing, you got no chance against him.
Still 2-2 to Hernandez. A couple of notable streaks end with that dramatic full count pitch home run by Javi Baez. The Giants had gone 16 consecutive scoreless innings to start the postseason, the second longest stretch in Major League history. And the home run by Baez, the first postseason run allowed by Giants pitching since the 2nd inning of Game 7 of the 2014 World Series. Stretch of 23 consecutive scoreless postseason innings.
The Giants have been here before, facing the Washington Nationals in a similar situation, down 1-0 in the 9th. Able to rally and take that game.
Did he hold up? He did not on the appeal. Hernandez strikes out.
Some upset guys in the Giants dugout. You can understand the heat of the moment. Did he go? Tough to tell at that angle.
And San Francisco will offer a pinch hitter now. As you take another look at the near check swing by Hernandez.
Again, trying to decide at 102 miles an hour where that pitch is. Not an easy task.
Eduardo Nunez bats off the bench in Brandon Belt's spot in the order. Belt was 0 for 3. Tough duty for Belt against the left-hander. Bruce Bochy running out of opportunities to get Nunez into the game. Nunez unable to start. Was not on the roster for the wild card game because of a hamstring injury. He's able to check his swing there. It's 1-1. Nunez with postseason experience. Played fall baseball with the Yankees in back-to-back years in 2011 and 2012. And take a look at that. The Giants are without a 9th inning comeback this year. They're trying to get it done against no ordinary man here in Aroldis Chapman.
Chapman, of course, comes and breaks in with the Reds. Widely known for this fastball. Then slowly but surely he started developing that slider. That slider you saw the first 2 pitches to Nunez. Not fair.
Wind blowing in. A guy that has not allowed a home run in a Cubs uniform. And the next 1-2 home to Nunez. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
The hardest thing to do as a hitter is to stay patient with your hands. You get your body going, as you saw Nunez right there, almost looking like he was going to attack that ball. You got to be as quiet as you can and then guess where the location is and try your best to make a short stroke.
Another appeal, and it's a 3-2 count now, and Eduardo Nunez. Well, the Giants had their best 2 chances on deck and in the hold in Buster Posey and Hunter Pence. Eduardo Nunez trying desperately just to get on base here with 1 out in the ninth. Here is the 3-2.
Swung at ball 4 again. Anxious in these moments. You got to pull the trigger quick, but this pitch was way outside. Nunez trying to be protective. Watch where this pitch is, and he just barely gets the bat on it, hits it foul. Would have been ball 4.
The next 3-2 pitch. A broken bat flare on a hop for Baez. Some funny English on that ball, but no trouble on the right side of the infield, and there are 2 away.
Well, you couple that also with Nunez not being able to be full speed with that injury. Gave Rizzo plenty of time to get back to the bag. A healthy Nunez, I think, beats this out. If there's anybody's swing, by the way, that is tailor-made for a 100-mile-an-hour fastball down in the zone, is Posey. Watch this right here. He can't give it the full go.
Buster Posey represents the last chance for San Francisco in Game 1. With a swing and a drive to left. Zobrist back, and it's off the wall. Posey into second, the tying run in scoring position with 2 away in the ninth.
Posey's got such a simple swing that I felt like this matchup, and he went with the slider. He doesn't overswing. Watch how simple this is. And this ball, if it doesn't have the top spin, it's a tie baseball game. Zobrist does his best to try and get him out at second. Of course, Posey does not have the speed, but see how simple that swing is. Looking fastball, reacting to a slider, and then reacting to this, trying to get to second base.
Well, that's going to bring up Hunter Pence. And for many Wrigley faithful, it's just too much to take. There's a pinch runner at second as Gregor Blanco takes over on base. Posey started the night 5 for 10 against Haroldis Chapman in doubles. Here's Hunter Pence, who's had some success in a limited sample size, 2 for 3 against the Cub closer. And what does this remind you of, John? You and I were just a couple of years ago. Game 1 of the 2014 NLDS in Washington. The Giants are down to their final out in the top of the 9th inning. Pablo Sandoval tied the game. San Francisco ended up winning that night. They're down to their last strike tonight.
Well, now Pence has to fight, and he fights up here anyways, as does the Giants team. He's got to find the baseball and find a way to put it in play with 2 strikes on him.
That was Game 2 of the 2014 Division Series. A ball and 2 strikes, the count to Hunter Pence.
Anything up over the zone, I don't think Pence can get to. Down, he can.
The Chicago Cubs have not earned a shutout win in a home postseason game since Game 1 of the 1984 NLCS against the Padres. And then there was a little matter of Steve Garvey and Tim Flannery and a glove that had Gatorade spilled on it, and it turned into another episode of Cubs folklore. finishing with 103. It's 2-2. Tying run at second, 2 out, top of the 9th inning. Pence bounces it to Baez. Throw to first, and the Cubs have taken game 1. A brilliantly pitched night on both sides of the scorecard. One swing of the bat. Javier Baez, the hero. He straightened out a 3-2 Johnny Cueto pitch with 1 out in the 8th. Delivered the game's only run. Chapman holds in the 9th. And Chicago has claimed game 1 in this best-of-5 series.
Sit in the open, Matt. Couldn't wait to watch this series. It didn't disappoint. It's going to be a great series. San Francisco has everything that you need to be a champion.
Well, it didn't come without a little stress. After Posey had doubled, Hunter Pence had a chance. This is how it ends, fittingly with Javi Baez making the final play of the night.
Well, so many people thinking about this. Could this be the year? Bill Murray, one of those people.
It's in the hole. Game 1 is in the can for Chicago. The W flag flies at Wrigley Field tonight. Let's send it down to Ken Rosenthal.
Thanks, Matt. Javi, Cueto was really good tonight. He had a single in the 5th, 1 out in the 8th. What were you thinking going into that at bat?
I was just trying to get on base, man. I knew we had some people coming in to hit for Rossi and the pitcher, and I was trying to get on base, and he's been pitching me inside. I was just waiting for him to make a mistake, and he did that in that last minute, and he left it over the plate.
You looked like you thought it was gone immediately. How well did you hit it? Because it didn't get out by much.
Yeah, I forgot about the wind. The wind's going straight in, and I hit it really good. But good thing it just barely went.
Now the curtain call, what was that like?
What was that?
The curtain call, what was that like?
Just dealing with it. We can't do anything else. Just playing the game hard.
Javier, thank you very much. Matt, back to you.
All right, Kenny, thanks. It's Javier Baez and the game-winning swing that gave him the curtain call and led to the Falcon tires grip the moment. The official tire of Major League Baseball. Javier Baez gripped it and ripped it. Johnny Cueto knew it off the bat. Though the wind almost brought that one back playable, it got into the basket enough to win it for Chicago. Kenny is standing by with the Cubs winning pitcher.
John, you pitched really well tonight. Cueto pitched really well tonight. What was it like for you being in a game like this?
Oh, man, that's awesome. That's an awesome baseball game. Playoff baseball. That was a fun game to be a part of, and obviously really happy to be on this side of it. But, you got to tip your hat to the other guy. I mean, it was a great game all the way around. Great defense. We had some good at-bats there through the middle of the game, and, Cueto just kept making pitches, and I had to keep making pitches with him.
8 innings, 86 pitches. I imagine you feel like you could have gone on. What was it like just coming out of this?
Yeah, I mean, I tried, but Joe, wanted to make some moves there in the 8th or in the 8th. So, that's National League baseball. American League, you might get another chance to go back out there, but when you have a guy in the bullpen that throws 104, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with him.
Baez, what impresses you the most about him?
Just his ability to play all over the field. This guy was kind of written off as a hitter, as free swinging and all this stuff, and at times this year he's carried us both offensively and defensively. It's just been fun to watch. Any given night, it seems like he makes a play to save the game for us. So obviously tonight with a big swing and we get on top there 1-0.
John, thanks very much.
Yeah,
Matt, back to you.
Terrific night of postseason baseball. Kenny, thanks. At the end, the Cubs have taken a 1-0 win to take a 1-0 lead in this best-of-5 series. Game 2 of this one tomorrow on MLB Network. We're back on FS1 with Game 3 from San Francisco on Monday. The Cubs have taken Game 1. Let's send it to Kevin Burkhardt in Los Angeles, back at our FS1 studios with much more in a busy night in postseason baseball. KB.